Thanks, Travis. Hello, everybody. My name is Nick Williams. I'm a research assistant working under Travis at the Rocky Mountain Research Station in Fort Collins. So our role in research and development is to explore how urban ecology can help reduce extreme heat in cityscapes. And as of last summer, the Denver Urban Field Station has begun digging into these questions of heat mitigation. But before I get into that, I would like to set the stage for you guys real quick. So have you ever been standing in a parking lot surrounded by parked cars and black pavement, and it feels much hotter than stated on the weather app? Now imagine staying in an area lush with plants, trees, and shade. It seems much more tolerable, right? The difference between these two microclimates has a lot to do with how the sun's energy interacts with our surroundings. Solar radiation reflection from the pavement causes the real field temperature to be hotter, whereas plants and trees provide shade and absorb solar radiation, which helps mitigate temperatures. In the research with Duffs, we relate this real field temperature to thermal comfort since it's a more accurate measurement of how we interpret temperature rather than simply using air temperature. So last summer, Duffs deployed two separate research teams to collect urban forestry data in Denver and Fort Collins. The two studies examined connections between people and nature and the role vegetation plays in heat mitigation in semi-arid regions. I will focus on the Denver research for the majority of my time, but I would still like to mention the Fort Collins research since it's very much relevant in the world of urban ecology. The Fort Collins research investigates how front yard vegetation composition and configuration impacts the microclimate conditions around homes. The researchers used an advanced lab cart named MARTA, shown here in that center image, developed at Rocky Mountain Research Station to measure the microclimates based on an array of meteorological measurements. They did this to understand the effect of different landscapes in the terms of thermal comfort. And this study can help public and private landowners to leverage ecosystem design to regulate temperatures in the areas surrounding their homes. The Denver research took place at bus stops around the city, partnering with the Regional Transportation District of Denver, which has multiple bus routes that run throughout and around the city. Similar to Fort Collins, this research investigates how the composition and configuration of green infrastructure alters microclimates around bus stops. Over the course of the summer, researchers used heat stress trackers, infrared cameras, and university partner-led surveys to obtain an understanding of how thermal comfort varied between an array of bus stops. So here are infrared images of 4 bus stops taken in the middle of July last summer. On the right are 2 bus stops that have grass and a lush tree canopy providing shade. And on the left are 2 bus stops that lack canopy cover and are primarily constructed of concrete and pavement. Based on the center circle of these images, the shaded bus stops exhibit temperatures of 74 to 90 degrees Fahrenheit, while temperatures are 20 to 40 degrees hotter at bus stops with little to no canopy cover, reaching temperatures of 110 to 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Even in the lower left image, you can see how the grass on the right side of the image is a few degrees cooler than the sidewalk and streets that it borders. So based on the survey led by university partners, not only did transit riders report they are more comfortable at bus stops with adequate shade, but their thermal perception was also driven by the aesthetics of the bus stop. So yes, the aspect of shade helps mitigate extreme heat at bus stops, as seen in these infrared images, which in turn increases one's thermal comfort, while also having urban ecology at bus stops has a psychological effect as well. So how does this research help encourage the planting of urban trees in Denver? First is understanding how hot bus stops truly are. By collecting data with heat stress trackers, researchers are able to reliably show that bus stops that lack tree canopy cover or even any vegetation exhibit threatening heat, while also being able to compare those data points to bus stops with green infrastructure to showcase the benefits of strategically positioned urban ecology. Second is supporting that data with a very clear depiction of heat. The infrared images I showed last slide paint a picture that helps scientists, land managers, and the public to visualize the contrast between bus stops. And lastly, the university surveys enabled researchers to gain valuable insight from transit riders. The surveys ask questions to understand and connect ways in which the urban environment influences transit riders' perception of heat, comfort, and pleasantness while waiting for the bus. And how we hope this research will turn actionable. It is one thing to simply plant more trees to combat extreme heat in urban environments. It's another to do it effectively. By digging into minute details of configuration and composition of vegetation around built infrastructure can increase the benefits when planting trees. And these are aspects such as tree positioning. So depending on the orientation of the bus stop, the location of the tree will be an important factor in casting adequate shade in the hottest time of the day. For example, if a bus stop is facing north, it may be best to plant the trees behind the bus stop to optimize shade, taking into account the sun's angle in relation to the bus stop. Second is the location of the trees. The map in the lower right is from treeequityscore.org, where the orange areas indicate low tree equity and the green indicate high tree equity around the Denver metro area. With the goal to reduce threatening heat in Denver, it is essential to identify these areas as target locations where there is a need for an increase in urban trees to address these severe heat affecting local communities. And lastly is the composition. And these are questions like, what is the best species to plant to increase canopy cover? Or what species is best at regulating microclimate temperatures? And do these trees thrive in a semi-arid environment? So it is important to be strategic when increasing a city's urban tree canopy to be sure that the benefits are maximized and the funds are allocated effectively. So this summer, DUS is continuing this study, building on a great foundation of last summer to strengthen our understanding of the role of urban ecology in cityscapes. Lastly, I want to take a moment to thank our partners that have helped make this research possible, and to all the hard work from our researchers that spent countless hours collecting and analyzing data over the hot summer months. I personally want to extend my gratitude to Aubrey Benson and Logan Steinhardt at the University of British Columbia for letting me tag along on some data collection efforts with DUS last summer and sharing the research with me, as they are the experts of this research. Thank you guys for tuning in. Back to you, Casey.